And God said, "Let there be
The
light."
Lord says, "Let my people go."
I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me.
This is the Talkin' Bible podcast.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Talkin' Bible with Jeanie, Schwarz and Rohan Bell. Rohan
Perfect.
Bell and Jeanie, Schwarz.
Perfect. You got that right.
Rohan and Jeanie, Jeanie and Rohan.
Yes.
Yes, at least I didn't say Rohan and Jeanie. That would have been worse.
I do not look like a Rowan.
No, you're not a Rohan. No, you.
And you don't look like a Jeanie.
No, I definitely do not look like a Jeanie. Anyway, let's press on. We're talking about Jesus coming after hypocrites today.
Yes.
Hypocritical religion.
I like how he calls people, you hypocrites.
You hypocrites.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. He's pretty firm on hypocrisy. Has a lot to say about it, doesn't he? And
He does.
quite strong words.
And this happens in Matthew and in Mark. But I'm going to read it from Mark.
Okay, Mark's version. I've got
Yes.
both in front of me. Yep.
So one day some Pharisees...
This is Mark 7, 1 to
Yep.
13.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't say that. These Pharisees and teachers, they arrived from Jerusalem to see Jesus, and they noticed that some of his disciples failed to follow the Jewish ritual of hand washing before eating. The Jews, especially the Pharisees, do not eat until they have poured water over their cupped hands as required by their ancient traditions. Similarly, they don't eat anything from the market until they immerse their hands in water. This is but one of many traditions they have clung to, such as their ceremonial washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. I say it like that because it was in brackets.
Yeah, it does. It's just to let everyone know.
So the Pharisees and teachers of religious law asked him, "Why don't your disciples follow our age-old tradition?" And Jesus replies, "You hypocrites! Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you, for he wrote, 'These people honor me with your lips, but their hearts are far from me.'" This is what you were talking about on Monday.
Yes, it was.
You
The
mentioned
Pharisee
this
and the tax
verse.
collector. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Their worship is a farce. Can you imagine hearing
Totally.
him say this?
They've gone through all of this ritual and they look all holy, and Jesus saying it's all a farce.
For they teach man-made ideas as commands from God. So was this actually a man-made idea?
Yes.
Does it appear anywhere in the Leviticus laws?
No. These are specifically before this. It talks about traditions. So these traditions were rules that had been built into Jewish practice in the few hundred years after the exile before Jesus. And I've described it before. These are the fences they put around the fences of the Ten Commandments to make sure that they could avoid any risk of breaking the Ten Commandment by putting extra rules, extra barriers around it. But then they had taken those rules and they were treating those rules as though they were the command of God. And the problem with that, even that necessarily in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, to put a rule in place, put a guide, put a code of conduct in place that says, hey, we want you to avoid breaking this, therefore don't cross this boundary. But there's a difference between saying it's not wise to cross this boundary because we want to protect you, and saying this is the God-given boundary and you're a sinner if you cross this boundary. That's where they had gotten themselves out of whack. And because in the process of putting boundaries in the wrong place, they had actually broken other laws, like love God and love your neighbor.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. They've broken love your neighbor, especially in multiple cases. And that Jesus was saying, in your effort not to break the law, you're actually breaking the law.
And was this just a light hand washing, or what was this?
This was a ceremonial hand washing.
So before they ate, they had to do...
I think they poured water over their hands in a ceremonial way. Is that what your notes say? Something like that?
No, I don't have notes about it.
I think, it's not a hand washing for cleanliness. It's a ceremonial washing based on some kind of...
And what did it show?
Represents some spiritual cleanliness. I'm preparing my heart before, which, could be seen to be a good thing. If we're not against doing traditional things or doing physical acts, as long as we recognize that they're a symbol that represents a heart. Like the Pharisee we talked about on Monday, there was nothing wrong with fasting. It's just that his fasting had become an act in itself rather than the fast being an act that represented a heart that was broken, like the tax collectors. And that's what they went through all these traditions, which are meant to say, hey, when you wash your hands, take that time to wash your hands. It's a reminder to prepare your heart to eat and say, grace and be thankful to God. But they had made it like the act of washing the hands has become a rule in itself. So
it was to clean their entire body
it was
if they washed their hands?
Symbolic of that, yes.
Did it make them look wealthier or above people because were the commoners washing their hands like this?
They expected all the commoners to do it too. This was the Pharisees would go around and teach the common people how they thought they had to live. But they did it with Jesus says to the Pharisees, you weigh people down with burdens that you can't even carry yourself, is how he described it. So they're going around teaching this stuff as though this is the command of God, and they weren't even obeying the law themselves.
Okay, so assuming then, off what you're saying, that not everybody had the time to wash their hands in such a pompous way.
Maybe so, yeah.
And
Yeah, that would be a valid point. That become a burden for people. Yep, that's true. That might have been an issue. Yeah, good point. And I think tradition in and of itself is not bad. It's what we do with tradition. So I just mentioned John Dixon's podcast. So one of these comments this morning, I'd never heard. AJ Swoboda was being interviewed. I like him. He's a theologian, a scholar, and he quoted some might have been C.S. Lewis or some other person, and he said, let's see if I can get it right because I only heard it the once. He said something like, tradition is the living faith of dead people. Traditionalism is the dead faith of living people.
Okay.
So tradition is the living faith of dead people. So we look back and we say, what have people done in the past that?
Yep.
And we honour the tradition, and we recognise there's life in that. We have this tendency to always think the latest and the greatest, and we don't look back at those that have gone before us that have paved the way for us, and we should have respect for that. We should have respect for tradition. But when we take tradition and make it hard and fast rules to live by, we've turned it into traditionalism, which actually is the dead faith of living people, which is what these Pharisees were doing. No doubt a few hundred years before, there were good reason for them to do this, but they had made the tradition into traditionalism, and it became death to them rather than the life that was probably originally intended.
So that's why Jesus says you skillfully sidestep God's law in order to hold on to your own tradition.
Traditions, yes.
And then he goes on to say in verse 10, for instance, Moses gave you this law from God, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. Did he really? That's very violent.
Yes. Well, it was in the Ten Commandments.
Must be put to death?
I think it's in the Ten Commandments. Honor your mother and father. No, it doesn't say that in the Ten Commandments.
It doesn't say death in the Ten Commandments.
No, it doesn't. It says in the Ten Commandments that you honor your mother and father that it may go well with you and you may live a good life in the land. So that's a good question. Where does it say that? Have you got your Bible in front of you?
No, I don't.
Where does it say disrespectful? I'm going to check that. Carry on, Jeanie. I'm going to find out.
Because I question that because in another verse later on, Jesus says, love your enemy. You've heard it said, love your enemies and hate.
Love your neighbour and hate your enemies.
And hate your enemies. Sorry.
I say love your enemies. Yep.
Yes, but that's actually not in there. Hate your enemies is
No, it's not in there. That was in the
Bible.
tradition. That bit was. What verse are we in, Jeanie?
You're in verse 10.
Verse 10.
Anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death.
Okay, here we go. Let's see. This could be any other example of it. Part B is from Exodus 21:17 in the Greek version and Leviticus 29, verse 9. So it is there. It's not directly in the Ten Commandments, which is Exodus 20, but it is there. So it will be in the exact.
And what does it say?
I'm going to have to look it up. Exodus 21:17. Let's just see what it says. I'll go Exodus 21:17. Give me a minute.
I'll just keep reading while you get that.
Yep.
And then it continues, verse 11. But you say it is all right for people to say to their parents, sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give to God what I would have given to you. In this way, you let them disregard their needy parents. And so you cancel the word of God in order to hand down your own tradition. And this is only one example among others.
Yes.
That's what it says.
Okay. So let's go with yes. So it is in the law, but it's in a context of a number of parables a number of laws where Moses is setting a very high standard on the things that matter. So we have to realize that is abhorrent to us, but in that culture, compared to we've talked about this a number of times, compared to the cultures of the laws around them, it was actually a very progressive law, not a very conservative, harsh law. But Moses is setting the value and importance within a community of honouring your mother and father.
Sorry, you said this is a progressive law if you speak disrespectfully?
Yes. Compared to the nations around.
What was the other one?
Oh, I haven't got them in front of me. But all the laws of the New Testament, all the laws of the Mosaic law, if you take the whole law on balance and compare it to, say, the Code of Hammurabi, which was another law that predates it, of the Babylonians, it has a higher standard than the Code of Hammurabi. But I think, without going too much into it for the sake of this time, I think what Moses was trying to do is illustrate the importance of familial ties in a community. Remember, this is a brand new community, just come out of Egypt, forming up as a nation, and it's important that we honour our elders. We honour those that have gone before us. There's no Centrelink, there's no pension. So the honouring of those who have raised you, the honouring of the community, it was important because in ancient cultures, they had no problems just dissing the old people and saying, you're past it. You're not fight anymore. We'll just leave you. You leave you to die because you're no good to us anymore because you can't fight for our community. In fact, you're becoming a drain on our resources. That would have been a normal thing in society. So you can see why Moses is up in the ante here and going, oh, you got to take this seriously. If you just dismiss your parents, you're worthy of death. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think that's
he's
what
doubling
Jesus
down
is.
on,
doubling
on the
down on it.
10 Commandments,
Yes,
really.
exactly. Yeah. And Jesus is saying, look, that's there. This is how seriously I want you to treat your parents. But now in your tradition, you're saying, in your modern tradition in his time, to the Pharisees saying, but you're actually saying, actually, I don't have to give you anything, parents, because I'm donating my money to God.
So they've worked their way around
They've worked their way around something that was vehemently strong in the law. And in their situation, I talked about this a few weeks ago when I preached this passage, that he says, anything you say, anything that I was going to give to you as a parent, I'm now just donating it to God. So you can't have it, and I'm going to be more holy because I'm donating it to God. When I dug into it more recently, I'd never seen this before. The problem was they could donate it to God, but they didn't have to donate it to God till they died. So they were basically just saying, my estate belongs to God, not to my parents now. So it was a cop-out from honouring their parents, but meanwhile they could live with all the money.
Yes, and even when they died, that would be disputed.
It would even be disputed at that point.
Yes, their own children could take it.
They could take. So what they were doing was completely circumventing the law by tradition. They were finding a way to use tradition for selfish purposes, and that's what Jesus is coming against.
That's why he's saying, so you cancel the word of God in order to hand down your own tradition.
Yep. And we do that when we make traditions into traditionalism, where we make the fence the rule, the way to do things, the only way to do things, and sometimes we miss the other things. Jesus says to the Pharisees, you tithe a tenth of your mint in your garden, but you neglect justice and the love of God. They miss or he says you strain out a gnat and you swallow a camel. You miss the big picture and you get the small stuff.
So this is about the heart again.
It's the heart again. Yeah, totally.
Jesus spends a lot of time talking about what's in the heart.
The heart is deceitful beyond all things. Who can comprehend it, is what the scriptures say.
And why is Jesus talking about Isaiah? Like, is he actually placing himself in some kind of lineage here with Isaiah? Like talking about prophets?
Yeah, but he's probably, I think the reason he's quoting Isaiah is because the Pharisees are big on quoting Isaiah. Isaiah is a very well quoted prophet in the first century, in all first century writings, even other Jewish and Talmudic writings and so on of the time. So Jesus is saying, look, even you believe in Isaiah, even Isaiah said this. That's what he's trying to do.
So he's not, like we were talking about the other day, calling himself God without
No, I don't think so. This is just more appealing to their own sources. A good lawyer will use their own sources against them.
He is, though, expressing that he understands the law in a way that they don't understand.
Definitely.
That he has more of a prophetic understanding than they do.
That deeper understanding of the law. And that's very clear in the Sermon on the Mount. You've heard Moses said this. I'm going to tell you this is what it really means. So he's definitely appealing to a deeper understanding of the law. No doubt about that.
Do you know what this also reminds me of?
What does it remind you of, Jeanie?
That statement. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
I think you've talked about that before. Cleanliness, is it really?
Next to godliness. Haven't you ever heard people say that?
I've heard it say it. Yeah, I've heard it say it. But I'm saying, is it really that important?
But put it here, like if you have a clean home, this is reference to a home, right? If your home is really clean, you look like a really good person. You look like the Pharisee who has everything, all the ticks marked and everything. And
yep.
Yes.
Well,
I just got distracted on my thought.
No. I think I've told this story before, how when I first came on pastoral staff at another church and Jill went to see the pastor and said, well, what do you need from me? And we've got 3 kids at home and she says, well, what I need from you is just that you keep your house clean in case someone comes over when they've come to visit, and just make sure your lawn's mowed.
See, that is you have said exactly what I'm trying to say, and what Jesus was saying.
Is that no?
Yes, with the Pharisee.
So the problem there was, it might be good to keep your house clean, but not for the sake of trying to keep up appearances, because I want other people to come and feel welcome, but it's also unrealistic. If that's all that really matters, that's going too far. So, yeah, and my lawn was never mowed. We lived on a corner block. It was like, oh no, we couldn't afford to get a lawnmower person at the time, and so yeah, it was a point of contention. we weren't really living the godly cleanliness life when we had a young family with 5 kids.
My mother-in-law taught me that if you have a pristine home, it actually does nothing for creating relationships and building
absolutely.
trust.
I
so
would agree
if
with that.
you leave your home slightly disordered, and I would say in my case,
It was
very
megally
disordered, it actually makes people more comfortable.
I agree 100%.
And you have a more of an honest relationship.
Wise words from Mrs. Schwarz right there, I think. Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think of it a lot, and it's my excuse to not clean my house.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let's go with that.
Because godliness is next to uncleanliness.
Yes, let's go with that. I like it. And it does illustrate this point that we can make rules into some kind of sign of godliness, and we miss, as Jesus says, you're straining out a gnat. You've got a strainer out in case you get a tiny little unclean little gnat that you drink. Meanwhile, you just gulp down an unclean camel because you missed the forest for the trees.
You have just said that so succinctly.
Oh, it's Jesus' words. All right, thoughts provoking there. Let's not be.
So who is Jesus?
You always ask me that question.
Yeah, well, I'm on my search.
I should prepare it, shouldn't I? I should prepare an answer.
I'm looking for this man.
Okay. Yes.
That's
No, I
what
totally
is.
get it. Let me have a think about what I'm going to say about who Jesus is in this story. You ever think? Have you got an answer? You just ask me.
No. Who is he to me? I think he does honor the law. He's actually honoring the 10 Commandments. He is a man that holds the law into his heart, and the way he says it makes me think there's more to the 10 Commandments than I realized.
Yeah.
Because
Good
there's
point.
something important about respecting your mother and father.
Yeah. Good point.
Yes.
So he is digging into and showing that he has a bigger grasp on the spirit of the law.
Yes,
that they're missing.
Yes, this is not a Jesus disconnected from the Old Testament.
Yeah,
this
great
is
point.
Jesus actually saying...
Actually more connected to the Old Testament than they could ever have been.
Yep.
Well done. I like that. Yes. It shows that he is the fulfillment of the law. He is the one who didn't break any law.
Correct.
Yeah. Jesus said, not one jot or tittle, not one cross of a T or a dot of an I.
Saying these amazing things. But what do you think?
I think that let's go with that Jesus is the fulfillment of the Old Testament principles of the law. He came to show us how to live right. And all of their interpretations and all of our interpretations that lead to self-righteousness actually undermine who God really is. And Jesus is trying to correct that and say, hey, there is a way to live. That it's not about all kinds of obeying rules and looking down on others. That's hypocritical.
It's about love.
It's about
and respect.
Respecting others, loving others, honouring others, treating others with the dignity they deserve, honouring God through honouring others. I think that's a good way to go.
I'm happy with that.
I am too. Good. Let's just put it into practice now, folks.
Oh, that part of
that
it
bit
too.
That takes some work. All right. Tomorrow's episode, last one for the week. Many disciples are going to desert Jesus. Desert. My word.
Not have dessert.
Not have dessert. There's only one
Not
S here.
eat Jesus.
Yeah, not eat Jesus. They're going to desert him. They're going to leave him. John 6. So we'll talk to you tomorrow.